To all of Laulala science teachers, my name is Ann Laulala and I'm teaching science at Palalawa College. So now I am sharing with you some areas which can help in learning chemical bondings with the topic chemical bonds from year 11, strand 1, atomic structure and bonding. Learning outcomes. Students should be able to identify the bonds formed, describe how elements form bonds, investigate how valence electrons relate to chemical bonds, define chemical bond as well as covalent bond and ionic bond. What are the challenges faced in the teaching and learning of chemical bonding? What strategies could remedy the challenges faced in teaching and learning chemical bonding? Challenges faced in teaching chemical bonds. First one, the lack of teaching resources. Second one, sequence in which the bonding concept is taught. 3. Ways in which the bonding concept is presented. First one, lack of teaching resources. In teaching and learning chemical bonding, a result of shortage of resources used in the classroom. Few schools where apparatus are available. These are not enough, especially for group practicals. This means that most of the concepts of chemical bonding are taught theoretically. Second one, sequence in which the bonding concept is taught. Students struggle with the chemical bonding concepts. The challenges students face are associated with the sequence in which the bonding concept is taught, because the author receives little support from the constructive theories of learning as well as the lack of practical exercises. And the third one, ways in which the bonding concept is presented. Students do not really understand the chemical bonding process if it's presented theoretically, if we do not try to apply practical. This type of theoretically presenting impedes the understanding of learners, which may affect the students' understanding of the concept and will lose the interest to the topic. Strategies on teaching chemical bonds. First one, sufficient practice. The second one, uses of models. Third one, involvement of students in the learning process. Fourth one, encourage activities. First one, sufficient practice. To remedy the problems in the teaching and learning of chemical bonding, the process of ion and molecule formation from the atoms should be appreciated by the learner. Hence, sufficient practice is necessary in order to internalize the concepts and be able to apply them in different situations. The uses of models. I use models which can be useful in clarifying the difference between chemical bond and compounds. The using of molecular models enhances the understanding of the bonding concepts and makes it easier for the teacher to explain to the pupils. What are involvements of students in the learning process? Therefore, science educators should give examples and tasks which are relevant and found in the involvement of the students. Students should be given a chance to generalize what is being learned. Why encourage activities to your students? Students need to be involved in the process of making chemical bonding process and be given an opportunity to build their own knowledge using their own experiences. It is important for science teachers to understand the basis of how students construct knowledge so as to be able to use processes skills and be able to reject incorrect ideas. Before we move on to the main topic, which is chemical bonding, students should understand with different elements and their electron arrangements. Here are the molecular models I have created for oxygen atom, and neon. Have a look on the atomic model for oxygen. There is the combination of 12 poles in the center, indicating the protons and neutrons. And there are the electrons arrangements on the shell. The first shell holds 2 electrons, and the outermost shell contains 6 electrons, which means oxygen is not stable. Here is another atomic model for the element neon. Neon has the electron arrangements of 2, 8. The 2 electrons on its first shell and the 8 electrons orbiting on its outermost shell. So, neon has full valency electrons, or it is stable. Have a look on the periodic tables. There are 2 sides colored here, which are the metal sides and non-metal sides. Important questions. What is chemical bond? Chemical bond is the electrostatic attractive forces between atoms which are created by the transferring or sharing of electrons. The second question. How do atoms become stable? Atom stability depends on whether or not its outermost shell is filled with electrons. If the outer shell is filled, then the atom is stable, and if not, it will always form chemical bonds. Another important question: what is chemical bonding? Chemical bonding is a process by which atoms combine to form a compound. 2 types of chemical bonds. First one, covalent bond. Second one, ionic bond. Covalent bonds are created by the sharing of electrons between a non-metal atom and a non-metal atom, which creates a covalent compound. The second type of chemical bonds, which is ionic bond. Ionic bonds are created by the transferring of electrons between metal atoms and non-metal atoms, creating ionic compounds. Examples for covalent bond: hydrogen and oxygen are sharing their valency electrons in order for them to be stable, or full valency electrons. Example for ionic bond: sodium loses its 1 electron to chlorine, and their chlorine atom will gain that 1 electron from sodium. Okay, let's have a look on some examples I have provided to practice the understanding on different types of bond will form with different atoms. Your understanding on the periodic table will test here. Our first example, sodium and ion. Sodium from metal atoms has 1 valence electron, and ion from non-metal atoms has 7 valence electrons. It is hard for sodium to find 7 electrons to fill up its outermost shell, but it's easier for ion to find 1 electron to staple its outermost shell. From losing that 1 electron from sodium, sodium will get the charge of +1. Ion gains that 1 electron from sodium, and there ion will also get the charge of -1. So the compound will form a sodium ion, which is formed from an ionic bond. Our second example is from hydrogen and oxygen. Before moving on to the process of chemical bonding, you have to look up the given atoms on the periodic table, if they are metals or non-metals. Then you have to find their valence electrons, if they can form a chemical bonding process or not. These atoms are both non-metal atoms. Oxygen has 6 valence electrons, so it needs 2 electrons for itself to be stable. Hydrogen has only 1 valence electron. It can bond or share to oxygen atom and make up 7 electrons for oxygen. Oxygen still looks for another 1 electron to fulfill its atomic shell. Therefore, another hydrogen atom has come to share its electron with oxygen, and they will form the compound H2O, which is a covalent bond. Our third example for chemical bonding is from fluorine and lithium. Fluorine is on the side of non-metal atoms, while lithium is on the side of metal atoms. From your understanding on the periodic table, you can determine the type of chemical bond will form. Here is fluorine has 7 valence electrons and lithium has only 1 valence electron. Lithium is about to lose its valence electron to fluorine atom. From losing that 1 electron to fluorine atom, lithium will get the charge of +1. Fluorine gains that 1 electron and it will also get the charge of -1. So the compound will form is lithium fluoride, which is an ionic bond. Our last example is from neon and carbon. As we all know, both atoms are non-metal atoms. There is an opportunity you can say the bond will form is a covalent bond, but you are not looking at their valence electrons. Neon has full valence electrons, which is 8 electrons, and carbon has 4 valence electrons. So, neon does not need any electron because it is a noble gas which has full valence electrons. Therefore, there is no bond will form from these 2 atoms. So, here is your activity sheet. You can try with what you have learned with the bonding process I did. Try making some models with papers and do the process of chemical bonding. Pháp Lava, soy Fua Emmanuel.